we help support scientific research. So we do that financially, but also providing people to help actually carry out the field research. So we put members of the public in touch with scientists who are doing field research, and people can go along and help them to do that. And so you can go for a day or a week or 2 weeks and help conduct that research. So my role is to manage the participants who are going to go and do that. So some of them will be students, some of them work for companies, because some companies pay for their staff to go and do this, and some of them are just members of the general public who want to go and do this. So I manage all of those. Okay, because I used to work for a company that had a program with Earthwatch. So I went for 2 weeks to help a scientist who was studying an endangered possum here in Australia, and I enjoyed it so much. And so I had been working in IT. I did 15 years in IT and I was getting bored. So I went back to university and I did a master's in environmental science after I'd done the Earthwatch expedition with my company. And then the job came up at Earthwatch and I thought, well, I know all about it already because I had already been a participant. So I thought, yeah, I could do that, could help manage other participants. I think it's in a lot of trouble at the moment. I'm quite worried about the future, actually, if we don't change the way we're behaving. I feel like we're causing a lot of damage to the planet, and I think that we will get to a point where it's too late. You know, I feel that we need to act soon to change what we're doing, putting all carbon and methane into the atmosphere. And I also think that we have got to act soon to protect species, because we have, you know, so many species becoming extinct now. And like we're destroying their habitats, and we've got to stop doing that and stop driving them to extinction. So yeah, I'm quite concerned about all of that. That's why I do what I do as well. The fires have actually been going on for quite a few months. Some of them started back around November or December, and they've been going in different locations, because you realise Australia is very big and there's a lot of different locations. So we had some in Queensland, in New South Wales and Victoria, also some in Tasmania and Western Australia. And that's really, really unusual. Like, to have fires in all those states at the same time is very unusual, because normally what happens is you have one in one state and firefighters will go from the other states to help fight the fires, but it was really difficult to do that this time because there were fires everywhere. So we had people come internationally. We had people from New Zealand, from the US, from Canada come and help to fight the fires. That's not unusual in itself, but you know, we really needed them this time because there were so many fires. We've also had a long drought in Australia for a couple of years, and that's made the fires worse. So they were much more intense this time than they usually are, and much, much harder to put out, which is why, I mean, scientists are saying that about 1 billion animals, wild animals, have been killed. That's completely unprecedented. Like, that's never happened before. But it's because the drought was so bad and so many fires all at once. It's been really hard to put them out, as you probably know, although now that we're getting a little bit of rain, the ones in Victoria at the moment are all, as far as I know, are under control, which is really good news. But they burn for months sometimes, you know. And because the country is very inaccessible, very steep hills, and it's very, very hard to get in there. Really, you rely on planes and helicopters to do water bombing to try and put them out. It's very hard to get in to fight them by hand. I think there's a lot of people trying to do a lot of things. There's been strikes all around the world. You've heard of the students going on strike and everything. I'm sure it happened in France as well. I think what we need to do is convince politicians that this is really important and that we don't have very much longer to act. I mean, scientists are saying we've got about 10 years to try and get things under control. Otherwise, it could be too late. We could reach a tipping point which, you know, is a point we go so far you just can't come back from it. So I suppose we need to vote for people who believe that something needs to be done. But I think also what we need to do is, see, we have a lot of coal mining in Australia. So there are a lot of people whose jobs and livelihoods depend on mining coal. So it's very controversial because there are people who say, well, we should close down the coal mines, but then there are other people saying, well, what are we going to do for a job? So I think what we need to do is find alternatives for them, find other forms of work or other support for them. I heard that in Germany recently they have started shutting down a lot of their coal mines, and they're trying to redeploy people, you know, to give them other jobs, or if they're a bit older and they want to, then they can retire early, that sort of thing. I think that's really important, that people feel supported, so that, you know, if they do lose their job, they've still got money to survive. That's a bit harder to answer because we support lots of different scientists. Earthwatch has been going for nearly 50 years now. When we first started, we were just supporting all sorts of general type of science, general environmental, general research. But over the 50 years, we have shifted more and more to just environmental research. So, I mean, for us, it's all about all of the environment, really, but climate change and species loss are probably the two big ones that we focus mostly on. I think everybody can try to cut their carbon footprint, so use less carbon. There's another issue that I didn't mention that Earthwatch is focusing a lot on now, and that is plastic pollution in particular. And I think that's something that we can all do something about quite easily, to try to avoid single-use plastic and excessive packaging and just waste in general. So, you know, try to keep everything you buy for longer, use it more, don't buy as much stuff, all of that sort of thing that contributes to over-exploitation of resources and pollution. So I think that's definitely something that as individuals we can all do.